As Tom said, my name is Paul Heaslop, and I am the number 8 of 8 children going through this high school. And you will find out this is more than a high school, it is a community. As you see, the people that are here today, and over the years, everyone has a story that holds dear to them for their whole lives. And Tom roped me into this, being part of this committee back before this beautiful displays were even built. So that was actually 2002 or thereabouts. And since then, I've seen everyone inducted into our wonderful, what's the words I'm looking for? Unlike Krista, I wasn't smart enough to put my notes on my iPad, so I left them at home today. But anyway, we've got 40 people now inducted into our hall. And there's over 40,000 students have gone through the school. So if you look at and do the quick math there, and that's about 1/10 of 1%. So we've got some very special people that we're inducting today. And I, being on the committee since day one, I've seen a lot of names come through, and I was thinking about something last whenever it was, and I said, there's a guy I know that we should nominate. I know, and I started to do a bit more research on him, a bit more research, and I went, holy smokes, this guy's done a lot. Not only was he, he's a good student, your average student, went out to the world and started at Humber College and got schooled there and went into the work world and did pretty well for himself. As he puts it, I was doing better than the MBA student, so he needs university. So he did very well very quickly. So he rose up the ranks and was traveling and was becoming somebody. And unfortunately, something happened to him, which happens to a lot of people. He got the awful thing called cancer. So Michael fought on and came back to life. And then a little while longer, he got more cancer. And then the doctor, one time, I'm putting words in your mouth probably, I'm saying, well, you should write your will and, get your affairs in order. So Michael's still with us, thank God. And through his journey, he got involved with a number of different things, such as giving more than he took in. And he learned, as opposed to just being himself, he can give himself. It goes back to the community spirit of him. And he founded over 20 years, now about 23 years approximately, his company called Resiliency for Life. And what Michael does is speak about resiliency, giving yourself and to others what you can't see on the outside. You can't write a mathematical term about it, you can't draw a picture, but it's there. We all have it. And he teaches and talks to people about that. And he's talked around the world. He's been motivating people from IBM to single moms with a child who's got an issue, and everything in between. He's a dynamic speaker. He's been called a speaker, just go one of the top 10 speakers to go visit and see and hear. And he doesn't charge much. One day maybe he'll charge a lot. So he'll get out of that house and buy the big mansion, which he probably deserves. Michael's also connected to Beyond Connected. If you know what LinkedIn is, he doesn't, he caps you off at 500, so you got 500 connections. He probably has 5,000. Same as on Facebook, he's everywhere. Michael is a connector of people, not only to himself, but to others, and making the world a better place because of that. And there was one place I dug up on. There was a very beautiful 2-page, 3-page written article about him. And it was sort of an interview article, and it was wonderful. And the woman that wrote it, I believe she was in New Jersey, but I don't have my notes, so I'm not sure. Texas. And at the end of the article, it said something, and she was basically interviewing Michael, and said his philosophy is what he's doing in his work promoting resiliency, if that's the proper term. I'm not sure it is. Michael will tell us more later. But he says, I see my role for doing what he's doing as one part tour guide, very, very gently introducing people to the land of resiliency. One part outfitter. What items, skills you should pack for your very successful trip and use them. And one part host, making people more comfortable with their journey. What's that journey? The journey is called life. We all have it. We all do different things. We have one common denominator. We're all people. And on that, I will keep this short and introduce Mr. Michael Ballard, because he's a professional speaker. I am not.
It's my big chance to tease Tom Ellison, and I'm not going to take it. So first of all, it's indeed an honor to have this, and it's very exciting to be here. It's great to see, I was going to say older faces, because there's no old faces in the audience, just older, as we're all more mature now than we used to be, well, allegedly. So, What does King City mean to me and KCSS? It is a community. It truly is. Whether it's as a student council representative and president or principal or one of the students or former staff, current staff. And today I wanted to talk about some of the gifts that I was given, coming from a household of supportive, engaged parents. But then there was showing up to the school to have these instructors that took me and accepted me for what I was because, well, I have a spelling issue. And I'll never forget Joseph Sahib or Samir Sahib, as we know back then, saying, Michael, just play with the words. I'm not here to judge whether you can spell or not. I want to know if you understood the concepts. It's like, wow, I can pass a science class without having to spell? That's a miracle. So Joseph and his endoplasmic reticulum, coming to Peter Henderson's class, and Peter saying, with great respect to your parents, he said, I know your mother and father are wonderful people. You, on the other hand, the jury is still out. Wow, I'm being treated with respect, but being teased in school? Wow, that made that class so much more engaging. And when I got early in there one day with a spare and hung all his lesson plans out the window in double garbage bags from the second window, closed the windows, closed the blinds, and Peter came in and opened the drawer, and every desk, every drawer was empty. Although I knew better than to turn the queen upside down, because I was in the room of a monarchist. And he looked at the one class person and said, it was you. And then he went, wait a minute, this took planning. Ballard? Peter taught me that it was okay to be respectful but playful to make the subject matter stick. It was a great lesson. So I do some work with Youth at Risk in Scarborough, Peter, and it pays big dividends because of you, because I work with kids who have had a terrible time. Often they have no parents by the time they come to this class. They've lived with an alcoholic relative, their current relative maybe is dying, and they're in deep emotional pain. And 3 and 4 days, I get them to laugh at their issues, dust them off, point them in the right direction, and that church turns nickels into $5 bills and invests in humans in ways that I am humbled to be a small part of for 3 and 4 days a year, but you're there in spirit every time. Then there was Mr. Les Smith. We had a student, without mentioning names because I wouldn't want to embarrass them as an adult, and Les had to discipline him for bringing pornography to the class, and I watched him do it with such finesse, using the student's name, saying, I know doing two-dimensional research is somewhat interesting, but I would reflect that if you put as much effort on 3-dimensionals, you would find it to be far more interesting than 2-dimensionals. And having met his wife at the dance-a-thons, because he volunteered and she came along, was a good sport and dressed the part, I had to agree that his wife was far more interesting than what my co-student was bringing to class as 2-dimensional. I'd never seen a student well, respectfully disciplined and not sent out of the room to the office for the principal to handle. He just handled it so tastefully. So thank you for that lesson, because it wasn't part of the science curriculum, and yet when I deal with angry youth at risk, or having dealt with some adults who were at risk that I deal with on occasion, it was always like, there's another way to do this without humbling and crushing them. And what would Les do? Then there was Ed Sargentson, who gave me the gift. As a football student of phys ed, it was this thing coming at me with points and angles. And catching it, it always seemed to jump out of my hands at the last minute. It's hard to catch a football when you're scared of it. Because that thing hurt if you didn't know what you were doing. And he said, Michael, slow down. It's just a football. And we're supposed to be having fun. And part of my role is to help you get comfortable with your own body to play sports, because athleticism and fitness is important. Fast forward to my 2 physicals ago, he must have done something right, because my doctor said, chronologically, Michael, you're your age. But I'm happy to tell you that your blood cells are perfect. And you have the body age of 40. So I figured his glasses need to be fixed, but... So this school gave me the love of fitness. My parents told me to go for walks and ride bikes and eat well, and that was good, but Mr. Sargentson and Michael Shavalovich, or Heavy Chevy as we used to call him, because he had a Corvette, taught me that fitness could be joyful, could be fun, not tedious, and it was, you know, the days of participation and all that, but I didn't have one of those buff bodies. I was the kid that had the love handles by 13. Years later, with my cancer, and I lost 38 pounds with one of those surgeries and treatments, I said to my doctor, okay, I'm down to 137 pounds. I believe I'm going to beat this. But what's with the love handles? I'm a scrawny guy. You can see all my ribs. He said, oh, you got survivor syndrome. You're stuck with that. You'll be around forever. I said, it's a good thing to have those. I said, at 13, I hated these things. But you're telling me these are a gift? He said, oh yeah, people with love handles do far better than the extra trim ones. So when I get to talk to students and I talk about body image, I said it's nice to have the perfect look, but I learned that it's okay to have a little padding because it's a survival mechanism. So thanks, Mom, for the jeans. And no, not the denims or the Markwork warehouse. So the gifts I got at the school were profound because each teacher in their own way gave me the gift of mastery. Ruth Hogg, sitting on her desk. She wasn't formal. She sat on the desk at the front. And sometimes there was nothing on her desk. And I'll never forget, very appropriate calf-length dress, but that little flick of the foot back and forth, because she was alive. Very engaging. And it didn't matter whether you had 51 or 99 on the papers, or if you failed. Did you try? What's your next step? How will you do just a little better next time? And don't wait for the perfect answer. Stick your hand up. We'll discover this together. So I'm happy to say that I get to see Ruth on a regular basis, and my spouse, Betty Ann, and her visit regularly. And at 90 plus years old, she's still a bright light. And if my brain is half that bright at 70, I'll have won the lottery. Ed Sargent and Les Smith, or Mr. Smith, or Smiling Smitty behind his back, which I'm sure he knew all about. Peter Henderson. Not many teachers would be happy to have you hang all their things out the window. And say, oh, but they're all in order. A's are at the back, Z's are at the front, and chalk's that little one along with the hanger, and the janitorial staff or maintenance team were happy to lend you the heavy-duty bags because they know it wouldn't hurt anything. So being allowed that level of trust to pull a gag on a teacher, wow, because unbeknownst to most of you at the time, I was being discovered of having a chronic illness and bloating, bleeding. Life wasn't a lot of fun some days. And so as another student who I had a good friendship with said, Michael, you were some days really engaged and some days detached. I said, some days I was bloaty and bleedy and life was nuts. And other days I was ready to roll. And then there was the music teacher, Carl Mokai, who he didn't call it multiple intelligence because the research hadn't been published. But Carl had the gift of saying, Michael, you have this exceptional gift here, way ahead of any student in the music program I've ever taught. And I really respect that. Michael, would you tone it down? You're annoying the whole class. They can't do that like you do. Oh, I've never been told off so politely in my whole life. Here, I'm going to put you on a pedestal, and I'm going to give you a poke, because you're being a brat. Oh, I didn't know I was being a brat, but okay, thanks for the message, thanks for the lesson. So, to give me that gift of telling me what my gift was, and it was better than the class average of the rest of the school, and I got you into the concert band and the symphony band, where again, team building, being part of the team, being respectful, and because I had a lot of energy, setting up the stands, moving, hustling the things around, it was all great. But then being given lessons to break it down about, here's your gifts, but we need to talk about this. Your gift's so profound, you're getting in the way of all these people. Oh. At this school I got to meet Barry, who in grade 11 math was taking 7th year math at U of T, with the department head at the time. So to have Barry sit in with a math class with me was really humbling, because I thought 65 to 75 in math made me a genius. But there was Barry getting 85, and he was kind of bored with grade 11 math. Oh. So to have a teacher who would facilitate discussions about, well, gifts in math, Mr. Campbell was my math teacher, were not the same as gifts in music, but they were both important and both were math-based. Oh, how come if I'm good at music, then I cannot be so good at math? Although I agree budgets can be fun because you get to measure. So he was a gift. Then there was Dr. Samarica. He made biology interesting as opposed to confusing. Because, Michael, we are biology. We're an integrated system. And of course, whether he remembers it or not, the day he asked the Ontario level athlete if he would lift his t-shirt so he could show us how nerves worked in the back with a giant protractor and said, now this nerve ending here, and this nerve ending here. Now, maybe he knew or maybe he didn't, but a lot of the young ladies in the class were very interested in that young man's back. But not because of the nerve endings, I suspect, because that was one athletic back. And I didn't feel quite up to, I'm glad he didn't ask me. I didn't have an athletic back. So, one of the big gifts that this school gave was acceptance and lessons of mastery. And as I go around talking to people with chronic illness, acute illness, or youth at risk, or regular students, or gifted students, or even sometimes teachers, about being resilient and staying the course and being persistent, One of the gifts I have to reflect on is all the teachers who gave me and taught me how to be resilient in different ways and practice mastery. Because mastery is a lifelong process. And we know that in the olden days of the 60s and 70s when we graduated, they used to talk about we'd have 4 to 7 job positions. Now they're talking 4 to 7 careers or more, I believe, if I remember the research. So we need to be more like Carson, because we have to be flexible, malleable. We have to bring together different skills, even if we didn't go to school for it. And we have to use them and practice our mastery because, as Shelley with 1L has taught us, the gifts of artistry, the gifts of business, the gifts in healthcare are all about coming together with different things. I remember going politely head-to-head with a major expert in physical healthcare. Chief of staff went on to be the president of the hospital, and I said, but you need to have checklists for all you do when you care for people in chronic and acute care, because otherwise you're telling me that the physical care, healthcare professionals have perfect memories. And what have we learned in the last 2 years from the aircraft industry? That people in healthcare who use checklists to do diagnosis have far less expensive patient treatment outcomes than those who trust their memory. So, one of the things I learned at KCSS is boundaries, there aren't any. We have to look through all levels of expertise in all areas for the next big idea. And sometimes the ideas are dirt cheap, sometimes they're wildly innovative. So thank you for this honor. It is indeed wonderful to be here. I'm sure I left out at least 6 or 7 meaningful teachers, including my neighbor, Marion DeJean, who left here the year before I got here. And I teased Marion that she heard I was coming, so she left quick. Marion now resides in Bermuda. She's a wonderful lady. I've met her in the last 10 years. She only taught for a year here, but she's a very gifted professional who's touched my heart in ways that, well, she just lives a wonderful life and is a great role model on how to live life. So thank you for the honor. Thank you for your patience, Peter Henderson, over the years, and many others. Thanks to my mom and dad for a good seating and start. Thank you.